We welcome you into our first winner's bracket game of the week here on field number 5 as the top seed and the regular season champion of the ACCC Division 1 in 2025. The Lions of Wallace Hanceville about to take the field here in just a moment for the first time on the weekend in postseason play. We welcome you in. A happy game day here on JockJive.com. And the second game of the day for the Patriots of Northwest Shoals as they were able to take the victory over the number 4 seed Coastal Alabama South Coyotes 4-2. As we review as far as the highlights from Northwest Shoals' first game of the day, they were able to get some outstanding innings in the back 4 innings from J.C. Moore, as she was able to hold Coastal Alabama South to just 1 run in those 4 innings of relief. 4 solid innings, a couple of hits, 1 run that was earned with a walk and a couple of strikeouts, all of those coming in the 7th inning against the Coyotes. So it ended up being a clutch performance to get Northwest Shoals into this winner's bracket game with an opportunity to try and take down the top seed here in Alabaster. James Hardy with you as this will be the final game for us on field number 5 today. Wallace Hanceville has an opportunity to where they need to just win 3 games total, 1 today, 1 tomorrow, and then a potential championship game appearance on Saturday to take home yet another postseason ACCC championship. Wallace Hanceville about ready to take the field, and they will do so as they're wearing the blue tops along with their navy blue bottoms. Getting the start today for the Lions is Madeline Howard out of Mobile, Alabama, as we'll take a look at some of her totals here in 2025. As hopefully we can get to those prior to the end of this top of the first inning. What's been another outstanding season for the Lions as they breeze through the regular season and looking to do the same here at Veterans Park in Alabaster. Madeline Howard will take on the Northwest Shoals batting order. That'll look like this. Braden Mitchell, the leadoff batter, also will be getting the start in the circle. Maddie Griffith bats second at first. Mackenzie Heitch, the designated player, bats third. Kennedy Clark in right in the cleanup spot. The shortstop, Candace Chambers, bats fifth. Aspen Teague bats sixth at third. Center fielder, Julia Branscombe, bats seventh. Reese Pridmore catching, bats eighth. And in left field, Anna Lee Davis will bat ninth. Northwest Shoals, they didn't quite lead wire to wire against Coastal Alabama South today, but they never trailed as well. So they played a pretty good ball game to get their tournament journey started, as they'll be in the chili pepper red tops along with the navy blue bottoms as we are underway, as the first pitch by Howard is low and in. 2:28 for our game time. And should be approaching about the low 80s as far as our temperature here in Alabaster. As that'll miss outside, 2 balls and no strikes. Wallace Hanceville comes in at 46-11 on the season, as there's a bouncer foul toward the third base dugout. 26-6 in ACCC Division I play. Northwest Shoals with the win, now up to 26-28-1 overall, as that's fouled back our way. And regular season in ACCC play 16-15-1. So 2-2. We'll go over the Wallace Hanceville defense after the pitch, and that's fouled. Burns in left, Thomas in center, and Kelly in right. Graves at third, with Phillips over at short, Austin at second, and then Kaiser over at first. Sertel behind home plate. 2-2. Floats outside. Full count coming up. Howard winds and fires, and that hits Mitchell to get the game going. So a hit batter for Mitchell as she gets the game started. As she's at first base for Maddie Griffith. Griffith scored the first run of the game against Coastal Alabama South. Ended up 1 for 3 with a 7th inning single. Swings away and fouls it off. The winner will advance into the winner's bracket semifinal as the second game of the day tomorrow around 2:30 or so here on field number 5. On field 5, as there's a ground ball over to Phillips, she'll throw, but that is not in time. So infield single advances Mitchell to second base, and so that also gets the visiting Patriots into a good position now with runners at first and second with nobody out as Mitchell now into scoring position. Mackenzie Heitch will take for ball 1. So the winner will remain right here at field number 5 tomorrow. And then the loser of this ball game will also play right here as the very first game of the day. So 2 balls and no strikes now. As a rough start so far for Wallace Hanceville starting pitcher Madeline Howard. Howard out of St. Paul's Episcopal, her first season at the community college level out of Mobile, Alabama. Swing and a miss makes it 2 balls and 1 strike. Numbers loading up here, and we'll get them now. This is appearance number 29 on the season as that foul ball evens the count at 2 balls and 2 strikes. Howard, 29 games appeared in. This is her 23rd start. 17-3 with 3 saves on the season, including 14 complete games. 2-2. Way outside. So Howard, 135 in the 3rd innings of work this year. 128 hits, 56 runs, 46 earned. She has a high number of walks this year coming in to the postseason. 52 walks in just 58 Ks. That's in the right center field, and that'll drop down as rounding third Mitchell. She'll score as the green light given to Griffith, as well as the throw home is in plenty of time, and Griffith out at home plate. So that'll be an RBI single for Madeline Heitch. Mackenzie Heitch, I beg your pardon, as she gets the lower seeded team, Northwest Shoals, on the board, but an outstanding relay from Kelly to Austin to Sertel at home plate gets the first out of the game on the board as well. There's a strike to make it 2 balls and 1 strike. An impressive relay that time, as Heitch with the RBI to score Mitchell from second. So Northwest Shoals off to a good start. As aggressive coaching over at third from Angel Brown to try and send Griffith all the way from first, as the foul ball makes it 1 ball and 2 strikes. Kennedy Clark at the plate. Clark against Coastal Alabama. Reached base a couple of times. A walk and a single. 1 for 3 as that's hit into center field as Thomas into right center makes the grab. So now 2 away with a runner at first base. As that'll bring up the shortstop, Candace Chambers, who had a solid game to open up the tournament. Had a sacrifice fly. Also a run scored. 0 for 3. Taking it downstairs and inside. So a couple hits already for Northwest Shoals. Trying to upset the top seed and get into the winner's bracket for tomorrow. 2 balls and no strikes. A slow start out of the gate for Wallace Hanceville, while Northwest Shoals picks up where they left off against Coastal Alabama. Foul ball. Makes it 2-1. So really nothing to lose for Northwest Shoals as they're 2 games below 500 overall, including their win over Coastal Alabama South. That's high and away. So Madeline Howard just trying to get the motor cranking here for Wallace Hanceville. 3-1, popped up in front of second base as Phillips makes the grab to retire the side. However, Northwest Shoals gets on the board, a run on a couple of hits, no errors, and a runner left on base. So we go to the bottom of the first inning. Wallace Hanceville's first at bat coming up as you're watching the ACCC Division I State Softball Tournament on JockJive. A shaky top of the first inning for Madeline Howard, but thanks to some outstanding defense behind her, was able to settle in and only allow 1 run to Northwest Shoals. As Wallace Hanceville, their first at bat. Kaylin Jones leads off as she takes downstairs. Kaylin Jones, the designated player. She'll be followed by Tanasia Thomas in center field. Brandy Phillips, the shortstop, bats third. And Charlie Kaiser at first in the cleanup spot. Braden Mitchell goes again today as she'll miss up and in. And one of the top sluggers in the ACCC, Brooklyn Sertel, the catcher, bats fifth. Blakeland Austin at second in the 6th spot. 2-0. And there's the first strike for Mitchell. Bottom third of the Lions order, Leah Graves at third, bats 7th. Lexi Kelly in right, bats 8th. And Ashlyn Burns in left, bats 9th. That's slapped over to third. Nice play by Teague as she throws across in time. So 1 up and 1 down for Wallace Hanceville. Brings up Tanasia Thomas. Defense for the Patriots of Northwest Shoals. Davis in left, Branscombe in center, and Clark in right. The Patriots outfield, and we'll go over the infield after that misses outside to Thomas. Teague at third, Chambers at short, Street, who is not batting, at least right now, at second, and Griffith over at first. Pridmore once again behind home plate. Tanasia Thomas at 279 as she slaps that one foul. 64 hits out of 58 hits out of 208 at-bats. No homers, along with 21 RBIs. Mitchell got a no decision against Coastal Alabama South. That's line down the line and foul. So 1 ball and 2 strikes. Beautiful afternoon, a mostly sunny afternoon here in Alabaster. Actually well down Highway 119. About halfway between Highway 31 in Alabaster as well as Montevallo. There's a tapper. Teague, nice short hop stab as she tosses across in time. So 2 down. Here in the first inning has Braden Mitchell trying to get the Wallace Hanceville lineup out in order. As a team, the Lions 3-14 on the year in 57 games played. A total of 45 homers as a team. Brandy Phillips to the plate. 64 out of 194 for a .330 average. 6 homers along with 48 RBIs on the season. 1-0 the count. Kaiser on deck as Mitchell trying to work a 1-2-3 first. Rice ball comes up and in. Should have a warm but comfortable weekend, at least today and tomorrow. 81 degrees our game time temperature. Just a tiny breeze to speak of. 2-0 is inside, 3 balls and no strikes. A total of 4 games as far as the ACCC Division I tournament today. 2 games on fields 5 and 2 each. 3-0 is upstairs, so that's a 4-pitch walk to Brandy Phillips. So inning continues. A runner now at first for Charlie Kaiser. First time seeing Kaiser this week. One of the top sluggers on the team. .363 her average, 69 of 190. 8 homers along with by far a team high 85 RBIs. Takes a strike. And that, I believe, is among, if not at the top of, the ACCC numbers and RBIs. Mitchell looking to put a 0 on the board as that's low and away. Have to keep the ball on the ground if you're Brandy Mitchell today. And she's facing one of the top batting orders in the entire state. And one of the top teams, really the perennial power of the last several years in the ACCC. Hitters count for Kaiser, the first baseman. Northwest Shoals with an early lead as they also get up to a 1-0 lead early against Coastal Alabama South. That's lined and past the third baseman Teague as the inning continues with Kaiser reaching on her first hit of the day. So Phillips to second base. So Wallace Hanceville with a 2-out opportunity for Brooklyn Sertel. So Sertel on the season. 16 homers, 52 RBIs. Now, she has certainly more than the capability of putting Wallace Hanceville on top. Misses outside. Sertel, 63 hits out of 151 at-bats for a .417 average. First two batters were retired with ease by Mitchell. Now struggling to get out of this first inning as a strike call. 1 ball and 1 strike. So Kaiser provides Wallace Hanceville with their first hit of the day. Swing and a miss. That curveball tailed away very late as Sertel offered at it. No chance that she was going to make any sort of contact. Big pitch coming up for Braden Mitchell. 1-2. Outside. Try to get Sertel to go chasing outside. I don't blame her. As the count now evens at 2-2. Mitchell takes her time out in the circle. That's hit well into center field, but over to make the catch is Branscombe to retire the side. No runs on a hit, no errors, and 2 left on base for Wallace Hanceville. As we go to the top of the second inning, it's Northwest Shoals 1 and Wallace Hanceville nothing. Wallace Hanceville leaves a couple on base in their half of the first inning as Northwest Shoals Community College leads 1-0 going to the top of the second inning. Aspen Teague, Julia Branscombe, and Reese Pridmore due up against Wallace Hanceville's Madeline Howard. Howard comes home. That's hit foul back our way. We'll take a look at how these two teams did during the regular season. Wallace Hanceville, again, the class of Division I in the ACCC this season with a 26-6 conference mark. Hit opposite way and again out of play. They played at the end of March, the 27th and the 28th. And so it was Wallace Hanceville losing 2 games on March 27th up at Northwest Shoals 2-0 and then 10-1, but bouncing back for a doubleheader sweep March 28th with wins of 7-4 and 4-3. 2-strike pitch down and away. Aspen Teague against Coastal Alabama South earlier today. Reached base 3 times, including a couple of hits and a run scored. Just a little bit inside. So Teague with a quality at bat here. Trying to get aboard as the leadoff batter here in the second. Lined and almost takes some of Howard into center field. I think that might have deflected off the glove that time, and luckily for Madeline Howard, she also had that protective gear to protect her face. A leadoff single to put a runner at first base with nobody down. As Teague will remain in as Julia Branscombe, her first at bat. Shows bunt and gets it down. Play bobbled, but the throw over to first base is in time. So call that a sacrifice. This will be 2-4. Sertel to Austin on the putout. One down as Teague now into scoring position. Reese Pridmore earlier today 0 for 2 with a walk against Coastal Alabama South. Takes outside for ball one. Now this is where Northwest Shoals, when they get runners in scoring position, they have to be able to come through. You got to be able to take advantage of the opportunities presented to you if you're the Northwest Shoals Patriots. As Madeline Howard has not exactly been on her game so far today. Grounder over to the shortstop as they'll have the runner between second and third and a rundown. And now coming over, a little confusion and a little indecision over at third as we'll have an out called at third. I think they're going to have a three-person umpiring discussion of this last play, as that is definitely a fielder's choice on Pridmore. As we know for certain, she's at first base. So went to the shortstop, Phillips, who tossed over to Graves at third base. And if the out's recorded, it would be 6-5-4 back to 5 on the putout, as they do uphold the call over at third base. So Teague retired for the second out. Pridmore over at first base for Anna Lee Davis. So Davis did not play in the first game as she takes for ball one. So Howard works around a little trouble as a floater into left that'll drop down for a base hit. So Davis, her first hit of the weekend. She's aboard with 2 down, her 13th hit in now 62 at-bats this season. And to second base goes Pridmore. Two hits in the inning for Northwest Shoals as we're back to the top of the order in Braden Mitchell. Mitchell gets ahead in the count. She was hit by a pitch on a 3-2 pitch to begin the ball game. Madeline Howard's had workaround trouble all throughout her first inning in 2/3. Curveball outside. So Maddie Griffith on deck. Braden Mitchell at 436 coming into postseason play as that's hit off the hands foul. 65 hits out of 149 regular season at-bats. Was 0 for 4 with a strikeout against Coastal Alabama South. Pitch outside as the count goes now to 3-0. Check that, I beg your pardon, 3-1. A hitter's count nonetheless to Mitchell. Pitch, that's fouled off. So the runners will get a head start on the upcoming payoff pitch. And Howard once again trying to at least eliminate or minimize any damage. Pitch popped up. Shallow right as Kelly has a beat on it along the line, makes the catch. Side retired as a couple left on base for Northwest Shoals. No runs, 2 hits rather, no errors, and those 2 left on base. As we go to the bottom of the second inning, remains Northwest Shoals 1 and Wallace Hanceville nothing. We're through 1.5 innings of play here on JockJive.com. The ACCC Division I State Softball Tournament for 2025. Wallace Hanceville able to escape trouble in the top of the second inning. Blakeland Austin for the Wallace Hanceville Lions leads off the second inning for the designated home team and the tournament's top seed. Braden Mitchell also left a couple of Lions stranded in the first. And there's a strike on the inside corner. Austin on the season, 53 games played, 49 out of 162. That's a .302 average, 5 homers, 32 RBIs. Mitchell, little soft liner and foul. About 4 feet or so wide of the left field line. Leah Graves and Lexi Kelly also scheduled for their first at-bats of this Thursday afternoon. Friday action begins with elimination games at noon on field number 2 and 5, and then winners bracket games to close out tomorrow, about 35 minutes following the first games. 0-2 pitch is just outside. Austin so far at the plate, 15 walks and 20 strikeouts in the regular season. Mitchell comes home. Popped up and out of play. I'll remind you, as far as Braden Mitchell from the circle this season, 95 innings in the regular season. Still an 8-9 record. Her 19th start and 22nd appearance this year. 1-2. That's outside. Mitchell, 64 hits, 54 runs, 34 of those earned, 46 walks and 105 Ks, all of those coming in regular season play. Mitchell ready, and that's low. So you have the bottom 2 seeds over on field number 2 playing a winner's bracket game today. Or I beg your pardon, you have one of the bottom seeds over on field number 2 playing the number 2 seed in the tournament. Right side pop-up goes out of play. So you have Southern Union playing their first game of the day against the number 6 seed and the bottom seed in Calhoun Community College. Calhoun also able to upset the number 3 seed Snead State 4-2. 3-2 the count. Inside corner, a called strike 3. Nicely done that time by Mitchell. And she was able to at least cross up Austin for out number 1. Nobody aboard for Leah Graves. Graves 50 out of 170, 294 on the season with 4 homers and 33 RBIs. Mitchell comes home. Just a little bit low. Wallace Hanceville stranded a couple of runners on base in their first at bat. That's what Northwest Shoals did also in their most recent at bat. Weak tapper right side, and that's going to find its way through a seeing eye single. So Leah Graves with her first hit of the day. A 1-out single to center field. That was about as softly hit relative to the ball getting into center field on the ground. Right off the end of the bat, but not always how hard, but where the ball is hit. As Graves at first base for Lexi Kelly. Kelly, a homer and 12 RBIs, 24 out of 132. Takes for ball 1. So her batting average in the regular season at just 182. So that was hit number 1 for Graves in the second of the day for Wallace Hanceville. And that'll slide inside. 2 balls and no strikes. So Wallace Hanceville trying to generate some offense in the bottom of their order. Graves over at first. Mitchell comes home. That's outside. Ashlyn Burns on deck. And we'll have time called as the Northwest Shoals catcher Reese Pridmore wants to have a word with Brandy Mitchell. So Wallace Hanceville in the regular season, a few more losses than typically they would have as far as through the conference schedule, but more than good enough to once again get the top seed this week. Still 26-6 through the conference. That's a good run through the regular season. 3-0. Upstairs for ball 4, so that's going to put a runner into scoring position. Second walk for Mitchell. Graves now at second base. So Ashlyn Burns to the plate. Burns, 54 games played, 37 out of 151, a .245 average in the regular season. So Mitchell, once again, will work around some base runners. Hit right side, and that's going to find its way into the front row of stands. No balls and 1 strike for Burns. This is the first game of the tournament for Wallace Hanceville, second game of the day for Northwest Shoals. So sometimes the team that's coming from the earlier game will have a little bit more of that game rhythm going well. A team like Wallace Hanceville that hasn't played all day, maybe take a little bit of time to get the engine cranked. 0-1, upstairs. Do not want to load the bases if you're Braden Mitchell with the top of the Lions order looming. So Mitchell now got the sign from the wristband. Rise ball upstairs. So Wallace Hanceville now 1 time through the order. As we'll turn over the lineup coming up. This is if Teague just inside the bag at third for Northwest Shoals. Popped up. Exactly what Mitchell needed As Street goes out and just along the line, we'll call it a foul out. Maybe a half inch or so into foul territory, 2 down. That's a big out for Northwest Shoals. As now one more pitch potentially for Mitchell to get out of the inning without any damage. Kaylin Jones a ground out to third, her last time up. Jones 61 of 121, an average over 500 in the regular season. Lined and foul. So, I mean, you look at Jones as far as where she stands in the ACCC in Division I this season. That is among the tops conference-wide. Pitch lined in into the glove of the third baseman Teague, and that'll retire the side. Nothing doing again for Wallace Hanceville. No runs, 1 hit, no errors, and 2 more left on bases. We're through 2. It remains Northwest Shoals 1 and Wallace Hanceville nothing. We're through 2 full innings of play here on field number 5 for the ACCC State Softball Tournament Division I. Maddie Griffith, Mackenzie Heitch, and Kennedy Clark due up in the 2, 3, and 4 spots. That's line foul. Griffith a single her last time up. Griffith reached base a couple of times against Northwest Shoals, including a run scored. 0-1. That's outside. 1 ball and 1 strike. So far, 1 run on 4 hits with no errors and 3 left on base for Northwest Shoals. That comes up and in. 2 balls and 1 strike. Maddie Griffith out of Ohatchee, Alabama. Her final season with Northwest Shoals. That's chopped over to Phillips at short as she tosses across in time. So 1 down, as that was a Sunday hop on a Thursday for Phillips. Brings up Mackenzie Heitch. Heitch, an RBI single. So far provide the lone run in this ball game as she gets ahead in the count. Heitch, a freshman out of Moulton, Alabama. Count evens now in 1 ball and 1 strike. For Wallace Hanceville, no runs on a couple of hits, no errors, and 4 left on base. Hit in the air and goes out of the glove that time of Kaiser. Dove for it right in front of the on-deck circle, and she had it, but once she made contact with the ground, one of those ground causing the fumble scenarios as the foul ball makes it 1-2. Far away from the playing field, so we couldn't quite get a good look as to whether she was able to hold on. Yanked foul left side. Winner advances to the winner's bracket game, final game of the day tomorrow. Popped up, and easy play for Austin, 2 down. A much better start to this inning for Madeline Howard, as she retires the first 2 Northwest Shoals Patriots she sees. Kennedy Clark, a fly out to center her last time up. Rise ball upstairs, 1 ball and no strikes. Winner of this ball game will take on the winner of Calhoun and Southern Union tomorrow. And then you'll have another loser's bracket special coming up to close out the day on field 2 tomorrow. And then play transitions exclusively to field 5 on Saturday. Off the glove of Howard as the throw late over to first base. So Kennedy Clark able to get a line drive single deflected off of Howard's glove. And so the inning will continue for Northwest Shoals. That'll be their 5th hit of the ball game. And puts a runner at first base with 2 down. Candace Chambers popped up to Phillips to close out the first inning, and she gets ahead in the count. So tomorrow you'll have Snead State and Coastal Alabama South play for their tournament lives as a grounder to Graves as she tosses across the diamond in time to retire the side. No runs on 1 hit, no errors, and a runner left on base for Northwest Shoals as we go to the bottom of the 3rd inning. It remains Northwest Shoals 1 and Wallace Hanceville nothing. We go to the bottom of the 3rd inning here at field number 5 at Veterans Park in Alabaster. Tanasia Thomas leads off for Wallace Hanceville, going up against Braden Mitchell for Northwest Shoals Community College. First pitch outside for ball 1. Thomas grounded out to 3rd, her only time up back in the 1st. Pitch on the way. That'll float in there, a strike call. Check that tomorrow, the first 2 games of the day. Snead State will take on the loser of this ball game right here on field number 5, and then Coastal Alabama South will take on the loser of Calhoun of game number 4 tomorrow, as that's floated down the line and foul to make it 1 ball and 2 strikes. So the loser of Calhoun and Southern Union will take on Coastal Alabama South tomorrow. Definitely, if you're one of these teams, on at least in our game here, Wallace Hanceville and Northwest Shoals or Calhoun and Southern Union, as that's again hit foul. You want to remain in the winners bracket, especially for the top 2 seeds. They only need to win a minimum of 3 games to win this ACCC Division I state tournament. Team that wins today would only have to play 1 game tomorrow. 1-2. Floats a bit high. Thomas, Phillips, and Kaiser, the 3 due up for Wallace Hanceville. The Lions trying to get some offense generated as they've been held off the board their first 2 at-bats. That's flared foul past the third base bag. So Mitchell just been able to fight in there. Couple foul balls. And we'll have the 7th pitch of this at-bat to get the bottom of the 3rd inning off the ground. Wallace Hanceville coached by Sally Birch. Now in her 3rd season as a tapper. Nice play by Teague as a quick throw over in time. She's made a couple of nice plays over at third base, 1 down. And someone like Thomas, you cannot just wait around. Once you field, got to be able to get that transfer from the glove to the hand in a split, less than a split second, really. So 1 down. As Brandy Phillips will walk her last time up. Mitchell, a solid work so far through 2 1/3 as she misses downstairs. Wallace Hanceville split their final 4 games of the season with Southern Union. Doubleheader splits on both May 1st and 4th. Hit right side, and that'll slice away from Clark foul. 1 ball and 1 strike. On May 1st, an 11-8 win in 13 innings at Southern Union, followed by a 6-2 loss. And then on Sunday, they were able to win the first game 1-0 and then lost in the regular season finale in game 2 of the doubleheader, 5-1. That drops downstairs. And prior to that, the Lions had almost an undefeated month of April. Mitchell gets a strike call. So far for her, 2 1/3 innings, no runs on a couple of hits. Has walked a couple and struck out 1. Trying to get Brandy Phillips out for the first time. Pitch popped up and foul. So 2 balls now and 2 strikes. Loser returns to the, or at least goes to, the elimination bracket at noon. Mitchell trying to pick up her 2nd strikeout. Wind and pitch. Grounded and through the middle for a base hit. A base runner aboard with 1 down, as that is just the 2nd hit of the day for Wallace Hanceville. First hit belonged to Charlie Kaiser, who had a 2-out single a couple of innings ago. Kaiser among the top sluggers in the conference with the conference leading 85 RBIs on the season. That's off the end of the bat and just outside the third base line. No balls and 1 strike. And this is the dangerous part of the Lions order. You have the leading RBI hitter in Division I of the ACCC, and then as far as behind her, Sertel, 4th in the ACCC D1 in homers. Upstairs, 1-1. These two teams won 2 games each in the series back in late March. Northwest Shoals wants to get their 2nd win of the day in the bag. There's a foul ball. And that makes it 1 ball and 2 strikes. So they've gotten off to a similar type of start they did against Coastal Alabama today. So they were able to keep the Coyotes' batting order at bay throughout. Northwest Shoals has not trailed so far today in either game. 1-2. Hit into center. Branscombe just a few steps back for out number 2. So still at first base is Phillips, as that'll bring up Brooklyn Sertel. Lined out to center her last time up. Sertel just a homer behind Coastal Alabama South's Carpenter for 3rd in conference play in the regular season. That floats high. 1 ball and no strikes. So Sertel again, always a chance to make an impact with 1 swing of the bat. That'll drop in there, a strike call. Brooklyn Sertel, St. Clair County native, around the Odenville area. Went to St. Clair County High, her first season with Wallace Hanceville. That's grounded over to the right side. Perfectly played as Street, as she'll go the short route to first to retire the side. No runs on 1 hit, no errors, and a runner left on base. We're through 3 as it remains Northwest Shoals 1 and Wallace Hanceville nothing. We're through 3 full innings of play here on field number 5 as Northwest Shoals, they've got this game where they won it, almost at the halfway point, up 1-0. James Hardy with you here on JockJive.com. Aspen Teague had a leadoff single back in the 2nd, and she begins the 4th inning in the leadoff spot. Julia Branscombe and Reese Pridmore also scheduled for plate appearances. That's lined in into the air, or they may say trapped, either way, and out over at first base on 1 pitch. So that's a quick way to get the 4th inning started. Branscombe, a sacrifice on the first pitch she saw back in the 2nd. Off-speed pitch, almost a batting practice fastball in there for a strike. Madeline Howard had by far her most efficient inning in the 3rd. Only faced 4 batters and needed 12 pitches to get to her 3 outs, as the count now 1 ball and 1 strike. Grounded right to Graves at third. Easy out to first, 2 down. So nobody aboard now for Reese Pridmore, who grounded into a fielder's choice to short her last time up. 6, 7, and 8 coming up for Wallace Hanceville in their half of the 4th. A swing and a miss. Nice job from Howard to get in on the hands of the Northwest Shoals catcher. Just tipped behind home plate to make it no balls and 2 strikes. A complete game win for Howard against Southern Union this past Sunday. 7 innings, 5 hits, and no runs allowed. So far has allowed just 1 run through almost 4 innings of work, as that misses outside. Sertel had set up outside that time. 1-2. Popped up, and that's almost going to get to our broadcast location. Too bad we didn't have a net to get a foul ball. So it remains at 1-2. Floats high and away, so evens the count now at 2-2. Pridmore wants to keep this inning alive. Out of Warrior, Alabama, on the other side of the Birmingham metro area, as she works the count full now, 3-2. First season with Northwest Shoals as the pitch. Lifted foul and out of play. The only run so far has come on a Mackenzie Heitch single to right center field. And both teams have left a fair amount of base runners aboard. Payoff pitch. Fly ball. Hit pretty well into left center field. This Thomas and Burns, as Burns makes the catch to end the inning. No runs, no hits, no errors, and nobody left on base for Northwest Shoals. We're halfway home. Game to the day here on field number 5 as the number 5 seed Northwest Shoals Patriots leads the top seed Lions of Wallace Hanceville 1-0. We're halfway home as Northwest Shoals in a good position at the halfway point as Wallace Hanceville wants to get some offense generated in their 4th at-bat. Blakeland Austin struck out looking to begin the 2nd inning. Braden Mitchell, a solid start so far through 3. There's a pop-up. See if it stays in play for Griffith. As it will do so, right in front of the first base dugout. So 1 pitch, 1 out here in the 4th inning is Austin now 0 for 2. Brings up Leah Graves, who singled her last time up. take a look at her as far as her profile. She'll take outside. Graves, 5'3", the freshman out of Morris, Alabama. About halfway between downtown Birmingham as well as the campus of Wallace Hanceville. It's hit off the end of the bat, foul. We've got a lot of underclassmen, almost all freshmen for the Wallace Hanceville roster this year. So it's been really an outstanding coaching job by Sally Birch of getting a very young roster to the top of the conference this year. Just 3 sophomores on this year's rosters. There's a swing and a miss. 1 ball and 2 strikes. So obviously early on with almost an exclusively freshman roster, you're trying to find the chemistry you want as far as getting better over the course of the season and playing your best at this time of the year. That's it, foul. So the only sophomores this year, Brandy Phillips along with Charlie Walker and Peyton Bailey. And then everybody else is a freshman this year for the Lions. Mitchell comes home. Weak grounder. Tough play for Street as she flips on and throws it wide of the first baseman Griffith. So the hustle by Graves forces the miscue. So call that an E4 to get a base runner aboard. So first miscue in a couple of games now today for Northwest Shoals. Lexi Kelly walked her last time up. Oh, good location. Add some movement to it right along the inside portion of the plate. Kelly walked on 4 pitches her last time up. Pitch on the way. That's grounded back to the box as a late toss and airmailed into center field. Good idea, but bad execution as Graves able to advance to second on an E1. So also will go down as a fielder's choice. So Northwest Shoals had played some steady defense through 1.5 games, and now on back-to-back at-bats, they've committed a couple of errors. So that opens the door for Wallace Hanceville to tie or potentially take the lead if they can string some hits together. Ashlyn Burns fouled out to the second baseman her last time up. So now any of the runs that come home to score in this inning for Wallace Hanceville will be unearned. So that misses low. So a team like Wallace Hanceville, you do not want to give any free bases, and that's what Northwest Shoals has done a couple of times here in the 4th. That's right down the middle of strike. The winner of this game will only have to play 1 game tomorrow. So the winner today will have a guaranteed berth into Saturday. 1-1. That comes inside. So Burns wants to set up the top of the order, at least load the bases, or potentially she can get a single, tie up the game. A hitter's count. Strike call out of Oxford, Alabama, where the ACCC baseball is playing their tournament this weekend. And the Gulf South Conference just got done with their softball and, most recently, their baseball tournament. 2-2. Downstairs. So Burns in a good position. And she's worked the count full. Ashlyn Burns, 5'5", one of those numerous freshmen on the roster. That's hit hard, but foul. So you look at Sertel and Kaiser. They're going to have another potential for a big year as sophomores next year. And that could be, as far as Wallace Hanceville is concerned, one of the top teams in the NJCAA for 2026. There goes another payoff. Lofted right side, and that goes out of play. Kaylin Jones awaits in the on-deck circle. Wallace Hanceville trying to crack that first run of the game on the board. Payoff. Hit hard down the line as that's hit well, but foul. Beyond the reach of Davis, as we'll have yet another 3-2 pitch coming up. So we're coming close to double-digit pitches in this at-bat as Mitchell and Burns going pitch for pitch. 3-2. Off the bat handle and into the glove of the left fielder, Davis. So 2 down as the runners remain at first and second base. Kaylin Jones has been retired a couple of times, a ground out to third and a line out to third. Big batter for Mitchell to try and get Northwest Shoals into the 5th inning with a 1-run advantage. The later this game goes, the more pressure it is on the top seed as the first pitch outside. Be a nice little feather in the hat for Northwest Shoals that they can pull this out over Wallace Hanceville, the top seed. A program that's been the perennial power in the ACCC for many, many years. 2-0. And also for the other added bonus, it only had to play 1 game tomorrow after playing 2 today. Have a little more time to sleep in at the hotel. Floated into left field, and that's going to drop down and gets by Davis. Coming home to score Graves. Burns, or rather Kelly, the green light as Wallace Hanceville takes the lead. That's a single and at least an RBI for Jones. And also call that an E7 to allow Kelly to come all the way from first base to score. So Graves, along with Kelly, score and make it now a 2-1 Wallace Hanceville advantage. So that's what happens when you give the top seed extra outs, including 3 errors. Wallace Hanceville has been able to take the lead, as we'll have a coaching visit for Northwest Shoals head coach Angel Brown. So both of the runs unearned here in the 4th inning. In fact, any more runs that score will be unearned. So hit number 3 and error, or check that, hit number 4 in the game for Wallace Hanceville, and 3 errors in the inning and the game for Northwest Shoals. So the first run that scored does get credited as an RBI for Kaylin Jones. And then the second run, no RBI on the play. So for Jones, that is her 9th RBI of the season. Tanasia Thomas, a couple ground outs as she lifts that over to Davis, who secures this catch. to retire the side. So Tanisha Jones 0 for 3. However, 2 runs come home to score on the benefit of 3 errors and 1 hit in the inning with a runner left in scoring position. We're through 4 as Wallace Hanceville now takes the lead, their first lead of the day, up 2-1. Three costly errors for Northwest Shoals leads to 2 runs for Wallace Hanceville as the Lions take their first lead of the day. And a first pitch foul for Anna Lee Davis, who has singled so far back in the second. That was a tough inning for Northwest Shoals as all of the runs that scored for Wallace Hanceville were unearned. Foul ball goes out of play. So you had an error from Street, an error from Mitchell on a fielder's choice attempt to second base, and then an error on Davis for not being able to keep the ball in front of her. The pitch gets to the backstop to make it 1 ball and 2 strikes. And of the first 2 errors, any of those, as far as the play that had been made, would have gotten Northwest Shoals out of the inning without any damage. Off the bat handle, and that goes out of play. So now Wallace Hanceville is just 9 outs away from advancing into the winner's bracket tomorrow. For Wallace Hanceville, 2 runs on 4 hits, no errors, as they have left 6 on base. Northwest Shoals, they've left runners on base too. 1 run on 5 hits with 3 errors and 4 left on base. As there's a breaking ball, a called strike 3. So 1 down as Davis goes down looking. Back to the top of the order is Braden Mitchell, hit by a pitch and a run scored, and then flied out to right to end the second. That's cued over to first base, and an easy play for Kaiser, 2 down. That took a little interesting spin to it as it looked as if it could have gone foul, but stayed right along the first base line. Maddie Griffith, the second batter in the order, a single in the first, and then a ground out short to begin the third. So Howard has been able to settle down after the first inning. She has now retired 6 Patriots in a row, has 1 ball and no strikes now on the Northwest Shoals first baseman. Pitch, lined in foul. Field number 2 action well underway. In fact, they should be getting close to the back end, if not close to the finish line between Calhoun and Southern Union. The 5 and 6 seed, the 6 seed and also the 2 seed going at it. So both of the bottom 2 seeds have won their first games of the day. 2-1 pitch inside. So 3 balls and 1 strike now on Maddie Griffith. Looking ahead to the Lions' 5th inning, it'll be the middle of their order, 3, 4, and 5. That'll be called a strike. Griffith thought that might have been just inside enough to take first base. Howard looking for another 1-2-3 inning. Off the bat handle and out of play. Mackenzie Hyde on deck. Mandy Griffith, her third time at the plate, as it appears we might need some more softballs. And one being returned to play. Howard ready for another payoff. Inside for ball 4. So now a base runner aboard with 2 down as Griffith on for the second time today. Don't forget, she was also retired at home plate for what would have been the second run of the game in the first inning for Northwest Shoals as the first pitch to Heitch, high and away. Heitch an RBI singled to right center in the first and then popped up to second in the third. For Howard, that was her first walk of the day, also has hit a batter, and has given up just 4 hits so far today. Loser returns to Field 5 tomorrow at noon, while the winner also plays on Field 5, but does not have to play until about 2:30. Pitch upstairs. So you'll have an elimination game tomorrow to get things started and then a winner's bracket game to close out the day. That's hit high and pretty well into left center field as Burns goes back, and that's off the light pole to put Northwest Shoals back on top. All it took was one swing of the bat as Heitch now with her 11th homer of the season. And RBIs for her now, her 42nd and 43rd, as Northwest Shoals with 2 outs gets a 2-run homer to retake the lead. So give credit to Maddie Griffith as she kept the inning alive with a 2-out walk. And then Heitch on the second pitch she saw able to hammer that into left center field. So clear the bases and add a couple for Northwest Shoals. That's also their 6th hit of the day. And for Heitch, 2 RBIs. She has a total of 3, all 3 of them for Northwest Shoals. 0-1 off the end of the bat as now the count now will go to no balls and 2 strikes. That is a huge hit and a big shot in the arm for Northwest Shoals. I have to give them a lot of credit after how the bottom of the 4th inning turned out with 3 errors, as they gave up the lead only to take it back on 1 swing of the bat. 1-2. That's hit foul. So all of the runs that Howard has given up have been earned. So Northwest Shoals trying to play their way into the winner's bracket tomorrow. What could be a winner's bracket, would be a winner's bracket semifinal appearance. Soft liner and foul. So at least on the light pole for Mackenzie Howard, that hit up probably about a quarter of the way up the light pole. Or about that lower light portion of the pole is. Good eye to lay off the drop ball to make it 2 balls and 2 strikes for Kennedy Clark. She has fly out to center and a 2-out single in the 3rd. Howard comes home. Off the end of the bat, flared into right and foul. Phillips, Kaiser, and Sertel due up for Wallace Hanceville. But Howard has to get one more out here to get Wallace Hanceville back to the plate. Two-strike pitch. Pop up over to Phillips as she'll make the grab to retire the side. But Northwest Shoals retakes the lead. 2 runs on 1 hit, no errors, and nobody left on base. As we're through 4.5, new scores: Northwest Shoals 3 and Wallace Hanceville 2. Northwest Shoals with a dramatic 2-out homer by Mackenzie Heitch retakes the lead as we go to the bottom of the 5th inning. But anything still possible with a 1-run advantage now in favor of the number 5 seed Patriots of Northwest Shoals. Brandy Phillips to the plate as she has reached base twice, a walk with 2 outs in the first and then a 1-out single in the third. Give a lot of credit to how Northwest Shoals has come out today, as they were able to get the early lead. Had a couple of ties against the higher seeded, 4th seeded as well, Coyotes of Coastal Alabama South, as they were able to answer every run scoring inning that Coastal Alabama South had earlier today. And that's exactly what the Patriots of Northwest Shoals have done so far in this ball game. So they trailed thanks to 3 errors in the 4th, but they were able to brush that off, put that behind them, and get a Mackenzie Heitch 2-out homer to take the lead going into the 5th inning, as the finish line is not too far away for either of these teams. So every at-bat becomes precious, especially for the top seed in the Wallace Hanceville Lions. So Phillips leads off as Brayton Mitchell misfires low. Mitchell 4 innings, 2 unearned runs allowed on 4 hits. Wind in the pitch. Off the end of the bat into left field, and that'll drop down and also get by Davis. Phillips at second and now goes to third and slides head first in with a leadoff triple. A miscalculation that time by Davis, especially on the turf field. You can't fault the effort that time trying to go for the highlight diving catch. But it came up right in, the ball came in right in front of her, and then due to the turf, bounced over the glove and then went all the way to the wall. So now Charlie Kaiser comes up with the tying run at third and nobody down. Kaiser swing and a miss for a strike. A single with 2 outs in the first and then a fly out to center. So now Wallace Hanceville putting the pressure again on Mitchell. That's tapped, I believe, right off of Kaiser to make it no balls and 2 strikes. So this is exactly the spot you want if you're Coach Sally Birch. Have your leading RB, in fact, the conference's leading RBI hitter at the plate with a runner at third. Grounded right back to the box. Nice job by Mitchell, making sure the runner at third did not go, and then got the easy toss over for the out. So now to the plate comes Brooklyn Sertel. She also has the capability of giving Wallace Hanceville the lead once again with one swing of the bat. However, 0 for 2 with a line out to center and a ground out to second. Good location, but misses a little bit low. The infield wants to cut off the runner at third and try and preserve a one-run advantage. (1-0), that's outside. So Mitchell, a workhorse so far in this one. Trying to prevent the potential third and tying run of the game from coming home. On the outside corner, a strike call. So 2-1 to the Wallace Hanceville catcher. It'll be an opportune time for Sertel to come through with her first hit as she grounds this one over to short. They're going to go home, and the slide not in time on the tag as Wallace Hanceville ties it up. So fielder's choice and an RBI for Sertel as Phillips comes home to score. Not a bad decision for Chambers to try and keep this game a one-run lead. However, Phillips was able to hustle down the line and slide in ahead of the tag from Pridmore. Blakelyn Austin 0 for 2. Struck out and popped up the first pitch that she saw in the fourth. Sertel remains at first as that's ripped foul. So no balls and one strike as we'll put that most recent run of the game on the board for you. So no hit, but we'll update Sertel's RBI total. Mitchell comes home. Floats high to even the count. So Sertel on the ground out, or on the fielder's choice, I beg your pardon. Now with her 53rd RBI of the season. Now Wallace Hanceville trying to come up with a rally and retake the lead. Skied behind home plate, and that'll get out of play. Big triple by Brandy Phillips was able to lead two batters later to that RBI fielder's choice. A play that left fielder Anna Lee Davis tried to make a diving stop on that got by her due to the bounce of the ball on the turf. 1-2. Down and away. So Blakelyn Austin trying to keep the mojo going. Austin at 302 coming into today. 2-strike pitch. Skied behind home plate, and that'll just get out of play. Pridmore is ready to make a play on it, but just creeps over the chain link fence. A team average of .314 coming into today for Wallace Hanceville. And an on-base percentage a little bit below 400. All of those coming in 57 regular season games. High fly ball, pretty well hit into left as Davis makes the catch along the track. And tagging up and going into second base on the play is Sertel. Actually a pretty good base running play there could prove to be a nice little reward for Wallace Hanceville if Leah Graves can come up with a single. Actually, that's a really smart base running decision by Sertel. I wouldn't necessarily expect the catcher to tag up from first on a fly ball like that. Graves has reached a couple of times, including an E4 her last time up, and also singled in the second. A single potentially could put Wallace Hanceville back in the lead. Mitchell comes home. Hit into left field, but right at Davis, who makes the grab to retire the side. So that ends the fifth inning. 1 run on 1 hit, no errors, and 1 left in scoring position. We're 5 through 5, all knotted up at 3 apiece. We're through 5 innings of play here at field number 5, and it's been back and forth the last couple of innings for Northwest Shoals and Wallace Hanceville. As we flip over the scorecard here in the top of the 6th inning, Candace Chambers leads off, still in search of her first hit of the day. Popped up to short to end the first and then grounded out to third to end the third. 3 runs on 6 hits with 3 errors and 4 left on base for Northwest Shoals. Foul ball down the third baseline. And then for Wallace Hanceville, 3 runs, 5 hits, no errors as they have left 7 on base. Aspen Teague and Julia Branscombe also due up as that's hit off the front foot of Chambers. 1 ball and 2 strikes. Candace Chambers wears number 3 out of Huntsville, Alabama. Hits that one in the infield. It's right at the second base bag. Phillips makes the grab, 1 down. So it brings up Aspen Teague, who has singled as well as lined out to first. Howard trying to come up with a shutdown inning here in the 6th as she misses with the rise ball. Keep in mind, after every half inning that an opponent has scored against Northwest Shoals today, the Patriots have been able to immediately respond with at least 1 of their own. That's hit foul out of play. Including this ball game when Wallace Hanceville scored a couple in the 5th and in the 4th inning. Northwest Shoals was able to answer with 2 in the top of the 5th. Off the bat handle, and that'll drop down beyond Austin into right field. Austin was played a little in that time, and really, Howard on that pitch did everything she needed to do. But just give credit for at least the batter that time in Teague for muscling that into right field. So that's a 1-out single. Brings up Julia Branscombe, who has sacrificed and grounded out to third. So Brants comes to the plate. Make sure we don't have a pinch hitter or a pinch runner just yet. I think we may have a pinch runner over at first base, and we'll check that here in just a moment as that first pitch misses inside. And indeed, it does appear that we'll have a pinch runner as Marlo Williams checks in over at first for Aspen Teague. So Teague can re-enter the next half innings. That's hit well, but right at Burns in left field, 2 down. So back to first goes Williams as Reese Pridmore to the plate, who has grounded into a fielder's choice and flied out to left to end the 4th. Howard winds and comes home. A little pop-up right side as an easy play for Austin to end the inning. No runs despite a 1-out hit, no errors, and a runner left on base. As we go to the bottom of the 6th inning, still tied up, Northwest Shoals 3 and Wallace Hanceville 3. Northwest Shoals, the 5 seed, playing step for step so far today with the tournament's top seed in Wallace Hanceville. Aspen Teague returns to the ball game and re-enters at third base for Northwest Shoals. Lexi Kelly has reached base a couple of times, including a walk her first time up in the 2nd as her first pitch that she sees is fouled off. A fielder's choice in the 4th inning. On a comebacker back to Mitchell, which she airmailed on the throw to center. 8, 9, and 1 for Wallace Hanceville. That floats in there, a strike call. Madeline Howard has given up 3 runs in 6 innings of work in the circle for Wallace Hanceville. Also 5+ innings now for Braden Mitchell. 0-2, high and away. Now with the 8 and 9 batters, I imagine that Wallace Hanceville wants to get this leadoff batter aboard and then try and play a little small ball to take the lead going into the 7th. Two-strike pitch. Line down the line, fair or foul, and just inside the line, a fair ball as it bounces over the wall for a ground rule double. That landed about a half-foot inside the line and left. Our third base umpire had a great look at it and was able to call that fair just outside the outstretched glove arm that time of Anna Lee Davis. Don't have time called as it appears that Angel Brown wants to have a word and try and at least have a word about that last play, but it's going to be a leadoff double, and I imagine a sacrifice opportunity for Ashlyn Burns. That's exactly the type of scenario that maybe a best case scenario for Wallace Hanceville. Corner infielders come in expecting a bunt from Burns. Burns a foul out and a fly out. does not show bunt and takes outside. Fouled out to Street along the first baseline in the second, and then flied out to Davis in the fourth. You want to put the ball in play if you're Burns to get the potential go-ahead run to third base with less than 2 down. So Mitchell with a lot of game pressure on her. Bunt now shown, and that goes foul. So 1 ball and 1 strike. That was a big hit by Lexi Kelly. She had a 1-2 count, was able to get a pitch that she liked, and she ripped that down the left field line. Bunt attempt, this time laid down, a good one, as Mitchell over to first, a close play, and just in time. So Street gets over to get the out on a 1-4 sacrifice, and that's exactly what Wallace Hanceville wanted, though, as Kelly advances to third, less than 2 down. There's now a chance for Wallace Hanceville to take the lead. Infield comes in all the way around for Kaylin Jones, who has an RBI single her last time up. And then also advanced to second on an E7 as that pitch downstairs. So a chance for Wallace Hanceville to take the lead going into the final inning of regulation. 1-0 floats on the outside corner, a strike call. So Mitchell and Northwest Shoals with their backs against the wall. That misses high for a ball. So the count now at 2-1. First base is open. And right now for Mitchell, the priority is to try and keep this game tied. Popped up. Left side as this will stay in play as Teague, the third baseman, makes the catch. That's a huge out for Northwest Shoals. As now it'll require a 2-out hit by Tanasia Thomas for Wallace Hanceville to take the lead. Thomas a couple ground outs to third and a fly out to left. So runner still over at third. Is that pitch outside for a ball? So if you're along the infield, especially on the left side, you have to be ready to go as far as any ground balls to make quick throws on a speedy Thomas. See if Wallace Hanceville can come through here as that misses downstairs. Brandy Phillips, who has reached base 3 times, is on deck. Wallace Hanceville has scored in each of their last 2 at-bats. And they're trying to take the lead here. Swing and a miss at the changeup. They were able to score on an RBI single from Kaylin Jones. Also, the second run came home to score on a misplayed ground ball. As there's a tapper, as the throw over to first base is just in time, and Northwest Shoals gets out of trouble. Despite a leadoff double, Wallace Hanceville cannot score. No runs, 1 hit, no errors, and a runner left over at third. We're through 6, and we remain knotted up at 3. We go to the top of the 7th inning as Wallace Hanceville had a golden opportunity to take the lead. Give a lot of credit to Braden Mitchell as she was able to work around a base runner at second with nobody out and not give up a run. We go top of the 7th inning as it appears we're going to have a pinch hitter for Northwest Shoals. So a pinch hitter for Anna Lee Davis as Paisley James checks into the game. First time that she's played in either game today as she gets ahead in the count. 9-1 and 2 due up. We'll take a look at the stats for James this year. 1-0. Strike on the outside corner. Paisley James out of Russellville, Alabama. Just 21 at-bats this year, but does have 7 hits and 4 RBIs as she slaps that one foul. So it goes to 1 ball and 2 strikes. Anna Lee Davis does have the chance to re-enter in the bottom of the 7th inning as Northwest Shoals trying to take the lead. Tapper back to the box, dropped momentarily. No worries, so Howard able to recover and get the out at first base. So 1 down as we go back to the top of the order for Braden Mitchell. Hit by a pitch and scored a run in the first, flied out to right in the second, and grounded out to first in the 5th. So already today, number 2 seed Southern Union was able to easily dispatch Calhoun 6-0. Now this is the final game to get completed as a weak grounder over to third. Graves to Kaiser, 2 down. So Mitchell now 0 for 3. Nobody aboard for Maddie Griffith, who is 1 for 2. Has reached base twice, a single in the first, grounded out to short to lead off the third, and then walked and scored in the 5th. Howard comes home, and that floats high for ball 1. So we'll set up as far as what to expect tomorrow for at least one of the losers bracket games. Sneed State will take on the loser of our game. That's hit foul. 1 ball and 1 strike. And then Coastal Alabama South will take on Calhoun tomorrow over on field number 2 for the first game of 2 on field 2. That's hit foul to make it 1 ball and 2 strikes. Coming up for Wallace Hanceville in the bottom of the 7th inning, they'll have Phillips, Kaiser, and Sertel. Howard wants to work a 1-2-3 inning here, however. That's a little chin music. 2 balls and 2 strikes. And then winners bracket games. Or at least a winners bracket game as Southern Union will face the winner as the rise ball swung on and missed for strike 3. 1-2-3 goes Northwest Shoals in the 7th as we go to the bottom of the 7th inning. Wallace Hanceville needs just 1 to walk it off as we're still tied up at 3 here on JockJive.com. So we go to the bottom of the 7th inning as J.C. Moore checks into the circle for Northwest Shoals, who pitched 4 innings of relief earlier today against Coastal Alabama South. Allowed just 1 run on 2 hits with a walk and a couple of strikeouts in those 4 innings against the Coyotes, as she'll face the teeth of the Wallace Hanceville order. Phillips, Kaiser, and Sertel 3, 4, and 5. Moore comes home, and that's a strike call. Winner takes on number 2 seed Southern Union tomorrow sometime around 2:30 right here on field number 5. Loser takes on number 3 seed Sneed State. First thing here on field 5 at noon. Rice ball goes upstairs, 1-1. Remember, all it will take is 1 run for Wallace Hanceville to get across the finish line. Otherwise, Northwest Shoals wants to send it into extra innings. Pitch. Hit high, and that's foul and out of play. Phillips today a walk in the first, a single in the third, and then led off the 5th with a triple. Also came home to score what was the tying run, or check that, the go-ahead run. I beg your pardon, was the tying run in the 5th. As that's hit into right center field, as going over is Branscombe as she makes the catch. Branscombe, a long run from her straightaway center field spot as she was able to reel it in, 1 down. First time that either Mitchell or J.C. Moore have been able to retire Phillips today. Charlie Kaiser a single back in the first, a fly out to center in the 3rd, and a ground out to the pitcher in the 5th. That'll float high for a ball. Winner trying to get into this winner's bracket semifinal tomorrow. Pop up at the second base bag as the second baseman Street makes the grab. So 2 up and 2 down as Brooklyn Sertel to the plate. She's 0 for 3. A line out to center to end the first, a ground out to second to end the 3rd, and then hit a ground ball to short that drove home Phillips to tie up the ball game. J.C. Moore trying to send it to the 8th. Change up high for a ball. For Sertel. Monster first season, 4th in the ACCC in home runs. 2 balls and no strikes now. Sertel, I imagine, sitting on a fastball here to try and end this ball game. Oh, that looked pretty good to hit as she takes it right down the middle. If this goes to the 8th, it'll be the 3, 4, and 5 batters, including Mackenzie Heitch, who has all 3 of the runs driven in for Northwest Shoals today. Fly ball, shallow left center, as the center fielder comes in to make the catch in Branscombe to retire the side. Nothing doing for Wallace Hanceville in the 7th. We go to extra innings as it's still Northwest Shoals 3 and Wallace Hanceville 3 here on JockJive.com. It's going to take extra innings for one of Wallace Hanceville or Northwest Shoals to get across the finish line today. 3 runs on 7 hits with 3 errors, along with 5 left on base. And then for Wallace Hanceville, 3 runs, 6 hits, no errors as they've left 8 on base. Wallace Hanceville had a golden opportunity to take the lead in the 6th with a leadoff double and a runner at third with less than 2 outs, but could not score. As Madeline Howard returns to the circle for the 8th inning. Time to flip over the scorecard as Mackenzie Heitch, a 2-run homer with 2 outs. Her last time up, as we'll have a 1 ball and 1 strike count. RBI single in the 1st. Pop up to 2nd in the 3rd, and then a 2-run, 2-out homer in the 5th. Lined over to the 3rd baseman, Graves. 1 down. A big first out for Howard as that brings up Kennedy Clark. Clark a fly out to center. That's in the 1st, a 2-out single in the 3rd, and then a pop up to short to end the 5th. Swing and a miss at the breaking ball. Northwest Shoals had a 1-0 lead that lasted all the way to the bottom of the 4th inning. Then thanks to 3 Northwest Shoals errors, Wallace Hanceville was able to take a 2-1 lead, only for the Heitch homer to give Northwest Shoals the lead again. 1-1 down the stairs. And then in the bottom of the 5th inning, Brandy Phillips tripled to left center. And then a couple batters later, Brooklyn Sertel drove her home with the fielder's choices just out of the glove that time of Phillips, who was almost able to extend out and make the catch as Kennedy Clark aboard with an infield single. Now that puts the potential go-ahead run aboard. Hit number 8 today for Northwest Shoals. Candace Chambers has popped up a couple of times to short. Popped up short to end the 1st, grounded out to 3rd to end the 3rd, and led off the 6th with a pop-up to short. Joe spun and gets it down. Graves over to the first base bag in time, but that moves up the go-ahead run into scoring position. So 5-3 on the sacrifice. So 2 down. Clark into scoring position. Aspen Teague back into the ball game. She's singled a couple of times. Going to take care of that for you there as we're now all situated. 1 ball and no strikes to Teague. Howard comes home. Outside. So 2-0. Looking ahead to the bottom of the 8th, it'll be 6, 7, and 8 due up for Wallace Hanceville. Pitch home. Outside corner, a strike. Might have been very outside edge. Game coming up on 2 hours old. Howard just misses inside. Julia Branscombe on deck. Northwest Shoals trying to pick up the upset here in this one. That's hit foul, and that'll load the count full of 3 balls and 2 strikes. That's hit to the outfield. I would imagine likely we'll get the go-ahead run across with Clark going on contact. Here's the payoff. That's just fouled off. 15 innings of softball so far for Northwest Shoals today, but they've only trailed on one occasion so far in those 15 innings. 3-2 off the bat handle. They trailed briefly through 4.5. Or check that, trailed through 4 innings of play and then later immediately tied it in the 5th. That comes in, and that's a hit by pitch. Just grazes Teague along the front of her jersey. So now runners at first and second base. Biggest at bat of the season for Julia Branscombe, as she has so far sacrificed. That came in the 2nd, grounded out to 3rd in the 4th, and then lined out to left in the 6th. Assistant coach Molly Hanson, the pitching coach for Wallace Hanceville, comes into the circle. At this time of the season, along with A.J. Doherty, now the AD over at Calhoun Community College. They were coaching. A.J. Doherty as the head coach and Molly Hanson as the pitching coach. And also head coach Sally Birch was also a part of A.J. Doherty's staff at UAB the last couple of seasons. Of course, Molly Hanson, a star in both the ACCC and at Samford University in the SoCon in the 2010s. Branscombe, her biggest at bat of 2025, as a hit has the potential, the high potential of regaining the lead for Northwest Shoals. 1 ball and no strikes. That's hit high and welled into left and off the wall as Northwest Shoals takes the lead. Clark scores. Teague slides in as Northwest Shoals again with some 2-out magic. Julia Branscombe with her biggest hit of the 2025 season, as that is able to score a couple on a 2-run double. So now Wallace Hanceville will have their backs against the wall. And let's see if we're going to have a new pitcher coming up, as we're going to have at least a stoppage in play and a discussion with 2 of our 3 umpires. Actually, we got to have a pretty good reason for time call, as it appears that I think the left fielder for Wallace Hanceville is shaken up in Ashlyn Burns. Tried to catch up to that fly ball and crashed into the wall in left field, and understandably, they're going to give her plenty of time to shake off the cobwebs, hopefully. So, at least while we have that stoppage in play, that'll give us at least a chance to review for Branscombe on that 2-run double. That is her 2nd double of the season in RBIs 4 and 5, and also just her 8th hit of the season. Or check that, 9th hit of the season. Also had an RBI against Coastal Alabama South. So actually now RBIs 5 and 6 on the season, but still, that's the biggest hit that she's had by far all season long in the most opportune scenario of the year. So that's going to put a couple on the board, and that's going to put a lot of pressure on Wallace Hanceville going into their half of the 8th inning. Reese Pridmore 0 for 3. Pops this one up behind home plate, as making the grab is Sertel to retire the side, but Northwest Shoals takes the lead with 2 runs on a couple of hits, no errors, and a runner left in scoring position. So for Wallace Hanceville, it's going to take a couple of runs to tie and 3 for the comeback victory as we go to the bottom of the 8th inning here on JockJive.com. We go to the bottom of the 8th inning here in the ACCC Division I State Softball Tournament. Wallace Hanceville with their back against the wall as they're trying to avoid going into the losers bracket tomorrow. Austin, Graves, and Kelly 6, 7, and 8 due up against a highly effective J.C. Moore as the first pitch, a strike call. Austin, a strikeout looking to begin the second, led off the fourth with a foul out to first and then flied out to left in the fifth. Not an insurmountable hole, but only 3 outs left as that's lined into left as Davis back in makes the catch for out number 1. That's a good way to start for J.C. Moore, as this is her second inning of work, has retired all 4 batters that she's seen so far. 5 runs, 9 hits, 3 errors, and also 6 left on base for Northwest Shoals. Leah Graves, a single in the second, reached on an error in the fourth and scored, and then lined out to left in the fifth. Takes a strike call. So we'll get the final totals here on Braden Mitchell after this 0-1 pitch. Grounded and wide of the third base bag and foul. 6 innings, 5 hits, 3 runs, 1 earned with a couple of walks and a strikeout for Mitchell. And then Madeline Howard, 8 innings, allowed 9 hits, 5 runs, all earned. No balls and 2 strikes. Moore comes home. That floats high. So J.C. Moore in line for what would be her second win of the day. Has only allowed 1 run so far in almost 6 innings of work in 2 games. 1 ball, 2 strikes. Off into the bat as that goes foul. Take a look at what could be the final numbers for Howard on the day. Hit a batter, allowed 9 hits. Also, I checked that hit 2 batters today. Walked 1. And also struck out a couple. 1-2. That's tapped foul. So once again, still not an insurmountable hole right now that Wallace Hanceville is in, but opportunities starting to run out. It's not often when the top seed, especially when it's been Wallace Hanceville, has had to go through the losers bracket here in Alabaster, but that is certainly a distinct possibility here this year. That's hit left side. Easy play as the catch made by Chambers. And now Wallace Hanceville down to their final out. So the top seed in trouble here in their opening game of the Division I ACCC State Tournament. Lexi Kelly, a walk, reached on a fielder's choice and scored in the 4th, and then doubled to lead off the 6th. And if they're not able to come back, that 6th inning may be an inning that they regret today. When Kelly doubled and then Burns sacrificed her to third, but neither Jones or Thomas at the top and second spot in the order could drive her home. So no balls and 1 strike. Pitch to Kelly. That'll float in there for a strike as now Wallace Hanceville down to their final strike. Northwest Shoals trying to meet up with the number 2 seed in the winner's bracket tomorrow. 0-2. Hit foul and out of play. So tomorrow we'll have our first game right here on field number 5 as Snead State will take on the loser of this ball game. Also, Coastal South will take on Calhoun on Field 2 at noon tomorrow. The 0-2 reached out and fouled off. And then Southern Union waiting to take on the winner of this ball game following the first game of the day here on Field 5. And then Field 2, as far as their final game, will have another loser's bracket game tomorrow. Swing and a miss as Northwest Shoals upsets the top seed in the conference tournament. So J.C. Moore, 2 scoreless and hitless innings in relief to pick up her second win of the day as Wallace Hanceville goes down in order. Your final score in 8 innings, Northwest Shoals takes down the top seed Lions of Wallace Hanceville 5-3. As Wallace Hanceville falls to 46-12 on the season, and Northwest Shoals improves to 27-28-1 overall as they win 2 today, and they'll take on second-seeded Southern Union tomorrow sometime around 2:30, while Wallace Hanceville will go into the losers bracket and take on number 3 seed Snead State right here at noon tomorrow. So we appreciate you for joining us as once again, your final score, Northwest Shoals upsets top seed Wallace Hanceville 5-3 as you've been watching the ACCC Division I softball tournament here on JockJive.com.